Hi guys, welcome back. So it is almost midnight and I'll just do another midnight sharing vlog. So as I mentioned in my previous video, for today's video, I'll talk about the working culture in Jakarta and in Singapore. So there are three categories. The first one being the level of competitiveness, the second one being the work-life balance, and the third one being the professionalism. Alright, so let's go through one by one. So let's go through Singapore first. Okay, so I was actually studying in Singapore and also working in Singapore. So let's go to the part where I was studying first. So when I was a student in Singapore, I was in secondary school. So back then, I could feel like all the Singaporean students were very hardworking. They bring their study books everywhere for the O levels, the N levels, and practice papers, and like they continue studying even after school and on the weekends. And for me, it felt quite intimidating because I felt like I wanted to rest after a long day of school, but then seeing my Singaporean friends studying so hard even after school and on weekends, I felt like I should be doing the same, even though maybe I was feeling tired or a bit overwhelmed after a long week of school. So yeah, that's the feeling I get. So I felt the competition was high back then because all the students were gearing towards the same goal, trying to get the highest marks, the highest praise from the teachers, and they want to go to a good university, so they really push very hard, which is actually it is a good thing. It is a good thing, but for me, I felt like maybe I was not at that level of you know competitiveness, so I felt a bit pressured by that whole environment. But yeah, I survived. I mean, I did it my way. So my way was that I tried to maintain a balance between studying hard and also having some downtime or some leisure time on the weekends. And maybe what I'm saying doesn't apply to all Singaporeans, but for most of them in my class at that time, yeah, it felt like the Singaporean students were studying super hard and pushing extra hard even after school hours. And for me, that was a bit intimidating being among them. Like, I didn't want to feel left out, but at the same time, I also wanted to still, have my me time and my breaks in between. So yeah, that's just me, my personality and my opinion. So yeah, let's go back to the part where I was working in Singapore about 4 years ago. So, okay, working in Singapore, the environment is different from Jakarta because in Jakarta, you feel like in the office in Jakarta you can still, take your time, chit chat a bit, have those small talks in between working. Whereas in Singapore, I felt like when you start work at 9, you really work. You really type, and print, and present. And, it's like there was no time to stop until your actual break time, which is at 12, your lunchtime, and then after work, after 5. So in between, I felt like there wasn't much of a leeway for you to maybe, rest a bit, maybe talk a bit with your colleagues about, hey, how was your day, and things like that. Of course, in Singapore you can also do that, but it did not feel like the culture was there. Whereas in Jakarta, Jakarta is tricky because, in a way, it is sometimes a bit too less strict in the office. Yeah, it is. You can chit chat a bit in between work, but then if you're not careful, then you can chit chat too long and forget about working hard. So that's like the difference between Jakarta and Singapore in terms of the working culture. Whereas in Singapore, because it is so competitive, you can feel like the workers, the Singaporean workers are really making full use of the 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. before lunch, and then during their lunch they have lunch, and when they come back from lunch they really push hard again until 5 p.m. When they go home. Whereas in Jakarta, maybe when you come to work, you start working, but maybe you do not push that hard. You still can have some coffee breaks in between and then continue working, and then but then as a result of that, sometimes in Jakarta, maybe in my experience in and seeing my colleagues also, my Indonesian colleagues, like we do not always finish our work exactly at 5. Sometimes we have to bring it back, and sometimes work a bit at home in the evening, or or maybe sometimes on the weekend we also can still work from cafe a little bit. Whereas in Singapore, I felt like you really work during those a lot of time, nine to five, and then outside of that, then I think you already finished your task for the day. That's why after work hours, you really have free time to do anything you want. So yeah, that's the bit that I feel about the difference in Singapore and Jakarta in terms of the working culture, in terms of the level of competitiveness, right? So secondly, about the work-life balance. So going back, this is quite similar to my first point actually. Like in Jakarta, you can feel like, in my personal opinion and my experience, I feel like I can have more work-life balance in Jakarta, because during work, I can sort of like arrange my time to finish the task accordingly, but also at the same time, I can also, you know, uh, take some take some mind breaks so that I don't feel so stressed when working in the office in Jakarta. So maybe I don't finish my task exactly at 5 p.m. I still do a bit of work in the evening, but at least I don't feel so stressed, and like I can still have like those coffee breaks in between, chit chat a bit in between with my colleagues. Whereas in Singapore, I felt like during the office hours I was working so hard, because it was the culture. You feel like you are expected to really push and maximize your work hours, and like yeah, you could feel like you are pressured to spend everything in your brain power and your typing power and your presenting power during those 9 to 5 p.m. in Singapore office. And then when you are done with work, you are just fully tired and fully overwhelmed, and I felt like that wasn't quite balanced for me. Like I felt like I was a bit too stressed at work in the office in Singapore. Whereas in Jakarta, maybe I work not 9 to 5. I work maybe can be 9 to 5, and then maybe 8 to 9, and then on the weekends a few hours on the weekends. But then at least I don't feel so stressed at work. So yeah, that's the kind of feeling I get in terms of the work-life balance. I feel like I could balance out my leisure time and me time and work in Jakarta, whereas in Singapore it's a bit hard, because it is already expected that you work so hard during those office hours, and I felt quite stressed. Maybe that's just my personality and my my working habits. Maybe it just doesn't suit me, and this Jakarta one suits me more. But yeah, it may differ from people to people, for other people. Yeah. So third, let's talk about the level of professionalism. So this is actually all quite related, because in Jakarta office, because it is a bit more laid back. Well, in my industry anyway, I was working in like marketing and advertising. So at least in my industry, it wasn't so stiff. Like of course we are professionals. Of course, at the end of the day, everyone have the titles and the hierarchy. But in Jakarta, even like the junior can joke with the highest level boss, or with their supervisors, and can have like lunch together as if they're just on the same level. Whereas in Singapore, I felt like, at least at that time when I was working in a social media agency in Singapore, I felt like there wasn't that much how should I say this, like um it just felt a bit more strict in terms of like the hierarchy level, and that like when you're a junior, you can't really uh, talk freely to your superiors. Like of course you can talk about work, but not talk about personal stuff, or like maybe joke around a bit in a personal level. You feel that in Singapore, in my opinion, the level of professionalism is higher than in Jakarta. That you felt like you are supposed to, stay within your bubble, in Singapore. If you're a junior, then you're in the juniors bubble. If you're in middle management, you're in the management bubble. Of course, you can have lunch professionally, like a formal lunch. But in Jakarta, even like the junior and the superiors and the highest level boss can just have lunch like their friends, and like may even go to karaoke, and uh, like like equals, like there are no boss and juniors, like they can just have fun together. And even at office, like the superiors can joke to the juniors, and like it feels more friendly. I feel in Jakarta compared to Singapore. Well, maybe there's a good thing about Singapore also, because in Singapore then you just keep it professional, so you are more focused about the work, and you are more focused about the task, and you don't get distracted by friendly jokes in the office. You just work. Whereas in Jakarta, it can be a bit more fun and entertaining in the office in Jakarta, because you feel like you can still mm, do some entertaining things in between work. I mean, when you have finished your task, then you have some time to like maybe have a coffee while make some small talk and jokes with your colleagues in Jakarta during your free time. Whereas in Singapore, it is more about work, and then when you have break, then you go to break during those times, and when it's time to go back to work, then you work during those times, and you don't really socialize with your superiors or your highest level bosses. In Singapore, you just do what you're supposed to do, and then just finish your task by the time it's end of the business. Whereas in Jakarta, you can dilly-dally a bit. Even you can, maybe you go home not at 5 p.m., but you can take your time a bit and have a bit more fun at work, but still get your task done. Not at 5, but maybe later. But yeah, in the end, you still get your task done while still having a bit of fun along the way. So that's what I feel about working in Jakarta versus in Singapore. Well, in terms of my personality and my working habits, I feel like for me, because I feel the need to have that balance between working hard, but also at the same time, having some entertainment and some social talks in between work. So I felt like the Jakarta office culture suits me more compared to the Singapore office culture. Well, maybe for someone who is more focused about, climbing the ladders fast, and working professionally to get their goals as quickly as possible, to achieve their goals as quickly as possible. I mean, the Singapore culture will be great for them, but for me, I want to achieve my goals. I want to achieve my goals for sure, but I don't have to achieve it that fast. I like to take my time while also still enjoying my leisure time, my downtime, to take care of my mental health as well, because I'm easily stressed and I have some anxiety sometimes. So yeah, I mean, that kind of pressure in Singapore doesn't really suit me, but the level of the relaxedness plus working balancedly in Jakarta suits me more, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's my experience working in both Jakarta and Singapore. Well, of course, I wasn't working in Singapore for that long, so I can't really speak for the rest of the industry in Singapore. Maybe there are some other industries in Singapore who who's also more relaxed. Maybe in the media or in the entertainment industry in Singapore, maybe it can be a bit more fun. But at least when I was working in Singapore, in my industry, in the marketing and social media industry at that time, I felt like I was working super hard, and I was feeling a bit a bit worn out back then. And when I was working in Jakarta, it felt more entertaining. Like you go to work, but you also still have fun at work. Even though you still have, as a result of that, you still have to work a bit after, after the office hours, or sometimes during weekends. But at least you get some fun in between the work. Yeah, that's just my opinion. But yeah, tell me about yours, your experience working in overseas or in other countries, and yeah, it'll be lovely to discuss more about this. But yeah, I think that's it for tonight's sharing session, and I hope you guys get some benefits from listening to me talk, or at least get some knowledge about the working culture here in Jakarta. Maybe it's not the most accurate, but it is according to my experience and my opinion in the industry that I was working in. So yeah, and I think for the next video I'll try to talk more about the life of being a single guy in Jakarta, and like what do I do for leisure, what do I do to be productive, and maybe the kind of work that I do here in order to support my finances, and just the other stuff that I feel can be useful to share with people who are living in Jakarta, whether they just came to Jakarta or they already live here, or they are foreigners who just visit Jakarta for the first time. Maybe I can share some tips about Jakarta, more helpful tips hopefully. And yeah, I think that's it for tonight. I'll see you guys in the next video, and thank you for tuning in, and yeah, stay healthy and safe, and see you next time. Okay, good night, bye bye.